All right, everybody. Good evening. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldia Chief David Ryman. We'll get this set up to make sure the live stream actually starts on the correct channel over on the YouTube side. But I believe we should be good now, so we might just have two streams. We'll
Yeah,
see.
one vertical and one horizontal.
Okay, well, it is what it is. Sweet. All right, so thanks for joining, everybody. We appreciate you popping on in for some Texas weather information. I'm David Reimer, and we have meteorologist Jason Cooley here as well, who's gracious enough to give part of his evening to help moderate things and help us get y'all's questions so we can chat about what's going to be going on tomorrow. So, the short and simple element to all this is tomorrow is going to be a pretty windy day across, well, a decent chunk of Texas, but also the possibility of very strong to damaging winds across western parts of the state. In fact, let me see. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll talk about what we expect to have happen tomorrow. So let's see, press that, press the buttons, and here we go. So starting off here, this is going to be the high-res rapid refresh model. These are going to be your maximum wind gusts at noon tomorrow. Now, you've got arrows galore, but these arrows, these are going to be your wind directions. So you can see eastern two-thirds of Texas, we're going to have winds generally out of the south to southwest. Eastern half of the state at noon tomorrow, winds gusting 20 to 30 miles an hour, even some 40-mile-an-hour winds in spots in the hill country up into western North Texas and the big country. It's going to be a pretty windy morning and afternoon. However, up here in the Guadalupe Mountains, the Permian Basin, West Texas, into the Panhandle of Texas, that's where we're going to see wind gusts that are more considerable. And these are going to be winds that could be gusting over 40, 50, even 60 miles per hour. You can see here at noon tomorrow, southwest winds from around Dalhart over to the Stratford area, Spearman, Cactus, Dumas. North of Amarillo, we could have winds gusting over 60 miles an hour by noon tomorrow. Down here across parts of West Texas into parts of the western panhandle, guess what? We could have winds gusting over 50 miles an hour. So here's 2 p.m. Guess what? Those damaging winds over 60 miles an hour in spots move into places like Happy, up to Amarillo, Canyon, Pampa, Perryton. This model showing winds gusting near 65 to 70 miles per hour out of the southwest by early tomorrow afternoon. These 50 to 65 mile an hour winds are expected across the Panhandle, West Texas tomorrow afternoon. Really, from the late morning through the afternoon, we could have winds gusting over 40 miles an hour in the Permian Basin into parts of the Trans-Pecos in Guadalupe Mountains. Carlsbad, looks like we could have winds gusting 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. Let's take a look at 4 p.m. Guess what? West-southwest winds still 60 miles an hour. West Texas, the Panhandle, wind gusts over 40 miles an hour through the Permian Basin, the Big Country, out into the borderland around El Paso, the Big Bend, the Guadalupe Mountains, the Davis Mountains, and the Trans-Pecos. The eastern half of Texas to the eastern two-thirds of Texas, we could have winds gusting over 30 to 35 miles an hour out of the south-southeast. So, on the wind side of things here, tomorrow is going to be quite annoying in the sense of what we're going to be dealing with across the western half of Texas. Now, I'll let this load some data here, and we'll just let the animations play. You can see after sunrise, things get really windy across the western third of Texas. We start to calm down pretty quickly by sunset. Winds generally, at least the wind gust, should be dropping below 45 miles per hour. But with that, we notice winds are actually going to become more gusty across the eastern half of Texas out of the southeast. So, with this nasty wind coming into the panhandle of West Texas tomorrow, blowing dust is likely. We're going to have a lot of dust flying around. Visibilities are going to be reduced. We're going to have that brownish tint in the sky. And with these nasty west-southwest winds, we're also going to have, unfortunately, pretty nasty fire danger. Now, wind direction tomorrow is expected to remain out of the west-southwest. We don't have any cold fronts moving in tomorrow night, so we're not going to have our typical southern Great Plains wildfire northerly wind shift. We are going to have relatively steady state southwest to westerly wind direction. Now, let's take a look at humidity values, and to do that, I'm just going to pop this on. Well, that's not what I wanted to pop on, but hey, if you want some shipping stickers, there you go. We're going to pop on the high-res rapid refresh model over on Pivotal Weather, and I want to take a look at the winds and the humidity values. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and use this, and let's take a look at what we can expect going into tomorrow. First things first, it's already quite dry out there this evening across the western half of Texas. We've got a lot of wind, and we've already got very low humidity. In fact, humidity values back at 6 p.m. the western half of Texas were in the teens to the 20s, so very dry air. We note tonight we are not going to have significant moisture recovery in the Panhandle and West Texas. Humidity values at 3 a.m. are still below 30% across the Panhandle of West Texas, which means things are going to stay dry. If we had any fires ongoing, they would be active overnight into tomorrow morning. Thankfully, I'm not aware of any ongoing wildland issues at this point in those regions. But you can see how quickly we dry out again. This is by 1 p.m. tomorrow. Again, southwesterly winds over 60 miles an hour, gusting over 60 miles an hour in the Panhandle, West Texas. By late tomorrow morning, early tomorrow afternoon, humidity values 13 to 18%. Very, very dry. And that's going to promote the possibility of very significant wildfire danger. Going through tomorrow afternoon and evening, we note humidity values only recover to about 40% going into Wednesday morning, which means fires are going to likely remain active through much of tomorrow night if fires do develop into the morning hours on Wednesday. And then for what it's worth, by Wednesday afternoon, an even drier air mass moves into the western half of Texas. We're going to have humidity values about 8 to 20%. And that's going to spread across the Panhandle, West Texas, Texoma, Northwest Texas, the Big Country, the Permian Basin, the Hill Country, the Concho Valley, the Borderland, and we're still going to have winds. Now, they're not going to be as bad on Wednesday as they are tomorrow. Again, tomorrow, western third of the state, we're going to have winds gusting over 50 miles an hour, in some cases to 60, 65 miles an hour out of the west-southwest. They calm down going into Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. You can see by Wednesday morning, we're not going to have much wind in the state at all. But, Wednesday afternoon, winds back across the western half of Texas, including the Panhandle of West Texas, will be back above 40 miles an hour with that extremely dry air mass. So that is going to be a big problem because not only are we going to have fires, well, let me rephrase that. Not only are we going to have dangerous fire conditions tomorrow, but those dangerous conditions will persist into Wednesday. They're going to persist into Thursday and probably persist into Friday with a cold front moving south on Friday, bringing northerly winds. So this is going to be one of these multi-day ordeals where fire danger is going to remain quite high for 3 to 4 consecutive days, and we're not going to see too much recovery at night. Now, what does that mean? Well, if we get a fire that gets going tomorrow in the Panhandle with extremely high fire danger, we're going to likely see that fire potentially persist for several days. There is a decent chance it will go what we call extended attack, meaning it takes multiple shifts of fire crews to contain the fire. Now, the good news is tomorrow night, the winds will calm down. Humidity will stay low, but the winds will be calm. But, if we burn 20, 30,000 acres tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be real difficult to get that entire fire line buttoned up before the new burning period starts on Wednesday. So let me pull up the latest wildfire danger maps here. And I'll go ahead and show you this. I haven't had an opportunity to remake this in our graphic format yet, but we'll get that out right after this video. This data literally just came out as the video started. We're looking at very high to extreme fire danger on Tuesday, according to the Texas A&M Forest Service across the Texas Panhandle, West Texas, into the Big Bend, south into the Big Bend, so the western third of Texas. We're going to have moderate to high fire danger along and west of Interstate 35 across central Texas, the Hill Country, the Rio Grande Plains, South Texas. On Wednesday, high to very high fire danger continues the western third of Texas, and the same thing on Thursday. Now, Wednesday and Thursday, fire danger may go up as we get closer based on the way data's trending, but tomorrow is definitely the day we're concerned about, where we're going to have one of our first real potent high wind events of the late winter, early spring, as we typically do this time of year. So what that means is we're going to have winds gusting 50 to 65 miles an hour. We're going to have temperatures in the 70s and 80s. It's going to be very warm. Humidity values are going to be very low. It's going to be a very dry air mass, and surface fuels, grasses, will be receptive to fires, which, especially across the western third of Texas, because y'all got the least amount of rain from this past weekend system. And even across the eastern two-thirds of Texas, where folks got, under half an inch of rain, most of that is already dried up. There were grass fires today in parts of the Hill Country in central and south central Texas, and places that got an inch of rain on Saturday. But guess what? All the grasses are still dormant this winter, so they're dead. As soon as they dried out, which only took, a day in most cases, they became quite flammable again. Now, soils may not be dry. They may be muddy and soft, and brush trucks are going to get stuck. But, we deal with this almost every winter. It's fire season. So, let's pop over here. Bring Jason back over in. So, a couple of apps you're going to want to look at in terms of monitoring fires. The go-to app is called Watch Duty. That is a great resource that a lot of folks will be able to use if we have fires over the next few days. And, here's hoping we don't have fires at all. Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, conditions are one thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have fires. But what we are going to be dealing with is the potential for fires. So Watch Duty is a good resource. It'll send you notifications typically if you have them enabled, if something is developed nearby. Their volunteers are very good about putting data into that. We'll be here as well, bringing you live updates as needed. We'll have video updates. We'll be very present on social media with updates as well, just like we have been for past fire weather events. And, here's hoping we don't have to deal with issues, but we very well may. Something somewhat new this year that has been present on the West Coast for over a decade now, but is new to us, are called public safety power shutoffs. Say that 5 times in a row. PSPS. And that is where some power companies, and this is mostly prevalent in the Panhandle tomorrow, are going to preemptively shut off power to select customers where the power companies feel the danger is high enough to warrant the discontinuance of the power supply during a wind event. And that's so there is a lower risk of those power lines or the power infrastructure being a conduit to start any fires if, something was damaged. And what those end up doing is the power shut off, right? Well, the power can't get turned back on until crews physically go out and make sure there's no damage, right? So sometimes the power's out for a few hours. Sometimes the power's out for a few days. And sometimes the power doesn't go out at all, and the public safety power shutoff is canceled. There's certain criteria that each power company sets, and once that criteria is hit, they start shutting things off. So we know that potential does exist tomorrow in the Panhandle. I've seen something from Xcel Energy, New Mexico, Texas Energy, I believe. So folks like that. and we have nothing to do with that. I'm just letting you know. So make sure you've got your phones charged, your devices charged. If you need to charge some batteries, that'd be a good idea to do. And again, we have no control, no input, nothing on that. But make sure you're also signed up with your power company's alert system for those text messages or phone calls or whatever. So you can be aware of these planned outages ahead of time. So in that case, we're getting some good questions here at looks like, and there are no dumb questions here for what it's worth. I mean, yeah, I'm balding in chief. I'm as dumb as they come. So it's unfortunate how well
Stop
that
it.
rhymed.
Stop it, David. Stop.
So
You
yeah, we're
are
just here to discuss, and yeah, so tomorrow. Western half of Texas, it's going to be really windy. There's going to be a lot of blowing dust. It's not going to be fun. The allergies are going to stink. So yeah, we're definitely concerned about those with medical devices. You'll have to do some planning. I know some communities are opening, their recreational centers with power and stuff like that. So check with your local city or county emergency management. They'll be able to give you that information. So wherever you are, you can just Google your city and then emergency management or county emergency management, and many of those have notification systems and resources out to help with that. So definitely, yeah, tomorrow's could be an interesting day and not in a good way. But again, you know what? If we can all do our part and not have any fires tomorrow, it's going to be windy. The dust is going to be unpleasant across the western third of Texas, but you know what? It takes a spark to start a fire. If we don't have sparks, well, we're going to be in good shape. If we do get fires, though, tomorrow, we could have issues. So, Jason, any good questions you're seeing?
uh yeah, you've hit on most of them, and you've been very thorough. Thank you for the full detailed breakdown. Very concerned to see just several days in a row. And it starts off pretty strong tomorrow with the winds and the very low relative humidity value. So, having that real bad day and then followed up with, a couple still active days, there will be still elevated fire danger each of the next couple of days after tomorrow. So, just
Yeah.
a prolonged event, definitely of concern. So, yeah, thanks for being so thorough and letting everybody know the situation. It's probably not getting enough press coverage, and a lot of people are kind of taking a bit of a rest after focusing on the severe weather side of things, and now the California thing today. So I mean, yeah, not there's not as much coverage on the fires side of things. So that's you're doing an excellent job updating people, because yeah, this needs to get out there. So we appreciate everybody joining us, and definitely hit the subscribe button, like button, follow button, share button if you would. That would be so awesome. Help David out. We need to reach a lot of people. We got a lot of people in the state of Texas. We love to extend our reach to everybody and get this important information out there. And we'll continue doing the coverage, and we'll be here. We'll have live visuals coming in from a couple of our storm chasers. Blake Brown and Chad Casey both plan to be documenting things as they come along in the Panhandle. And again, we hope to God that we get by without any fires, but you know it's that kind of day where things are going to be a tinderbox, and of course the winds alone are going to be possibly damaging at times. 50 to 60, maybe 65-mile-per-hour wind gust. Could even see a 70 locally, and that's tough. Not to
Yeah.
mention the dust storm and the pollutants in the air, the allergens. It's a mess. So I'm glad you're out there
Yeah.
getting the word out. So just to reiterate what you said, for those that are just joining us, we're going to answer questions. We still have maybe 8 to 10 minutes left. I think we don't want to keep you guys too long, but if you have some real good questions, send them our way. We have Sarah and the stars in here moderating. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Omar, thanks for joining us. Adrienne. Yeah, I mean, we appreciate the gratitude, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
we
yeah, we'll
definitely.
hang out for some questions. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be here. Y'all shoot your questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them. But again, as long as we don't have fires tomorrow, hey, you know what? We'll be in good shape. But we'll be here. And as Jason said, we've got storm chasers out there that can help provide some visuals from a safe distance, because, of course, you don't want chasers getting hit by fire either. We'll be here with hotspot tracking data so we can keep an eye out and see if we do have fires develop, and understand that if fires do get going tomorrow, the potential for them to move very quickly is going to be high. So, many counties are already under burn bans, which means you shouldn't be burning anyway. Even without the wind, there's been issues with that. So check out your area or your county for burn ban information, because you definitely don't want to be burned tomorrow. And if you're under a burn ban, you don't want to burn at all, because that's a really expensive ticket. Not to mention you're liable if, your burn starts to burn your neighbor's land down. In terms of preparedness, again, you're going to want to be very mindful tomorrow if you're in the Panhandle, West Texas, or really the western third to the western half of Texas all week for fires. And understand most of the fires tomorrow will generally burn to the east northeast, where we have the southwesterly wind. So, if you end up having smoke blowing over you, it probably is a good time for you to start paying attention. We talk evacuation information from time to time, and most people are probably like, why are you talking about evacuation preparedness ahead of a wildfire? Because days like tomorrow, fires can be moving, 5 to 8 miles per hour. And, people in the Smokehouse Creek fire a couple years ago didn't believe that. And guess what? That thing burned over 1,000,000 acres and ran 100 miles into Oklahoma. So, I don't think we're going to have anything like that tomorrow, hopefully. But again, fires tomorrow that get going, especially where we have these 60-mile-an-hour winds and open prairies, and in some cases not so open areas, they could easily run miles in the span of, a couple hours. So that's why knowing a couple ways to get off your property and get out of there is a good idea. Know a couple ways you can escape off to the east or south if you got a fire that approaches from your west. So again, no welding for sure, no chain dragging. Make sure your tires are in good shape. We don't want inadvertent sparks from a chain off a trailer, or, a tire blowing out and starting a fire. Tomorrow is not a day to be outdoors welding across the western half of the state. That's just not a good idea. And, make sure you've got stuff ready to go. A little go bag if you're in a high wildfire risk area, which most of the Panhandle is. Let's be realistic here. In West Texas, you should have a little go bag ready to go, just in case you got to, get in the car and go. Have your county or city alert systems in case evacuation orders are given. So, just Google your city emergency management or city notification system. Same thing goes for county, Potter County Emergency Alert System or something. And that way you're notified if your local officials end up having issue any evacuations. And yeah, it goes without saying, don't be throwing cigarettes out the window, stuff like that. So make sure you've got your important documents ready to go, meds, pet items, stuff like that. Sarah, our amazing moderator, made a great point with that. So be good to go. And again, fire weather is severe weather. I know our name's Texas Storm Chasers, and people think we're talking about storms. We're not. We're talking about fires because, well, we're Texas, and that's what we do. Fire, winter, storms, and floods. It's what we do all year round. So, and look, if you've got a lot of agricultural interests or you're on a farm, I know you're not gonna do what I say in this case, but think of you and your family first. If it comes down to it, don't put yourself in a position to where you're going to get trapped out in a field as a fire comes blowing by at 10 miles an hour. Stay with your vehicle to where you can get out of the way if you need to get out of the way. And otherwise, yeah, just stay aware. Again, Watch Duty is a very good app and website for tracking wildfire and tracking wildfire information. Watch Duty. And we'll be keeping a very close eye out on things as well. Again, we're going to have storm chasers out there for visuals if need be. Hopefully they're not. We're going to be very mindful of hotspot data, so we'll be able to get a eye on these fires if they get going in a pretty quick fashion. If we have road closures, drivetexas.org, the road condition website, that'll be useful if we have fires near major roads in case we have some issues with road closures. And, we'll see what happens. But again, yeah, just being mindful of the danger tomorrow and danger this week is what we need to do.
All right, David, I have a couple questions that have rallied up here in the chat. A couple you could simplify pretty quick.
Right.
Couple from Dusty179. One, when's our next chance of rain? And two, how's the drought map looking for Texas?
Oh, drought map. I can probably set something up for that real quick. Next chance of rain. And yeah, you guys just get to see that for a second. Next chance of rain isn't looking like it's going to be until Sunday at the earliest. We are going to see some light rain chances along the coast, maybe towards the weekend, and fog at times. But unfortunately, in terms of what we're expecting for appreciable rain Sunday at the earliest, and even that's not looking super duper great right now. So beyond that, let's pop up the drought monitor here. This is the latest drought monitor. I'm going to move. Oops, daisies. Hi, Jason. Here's the latest drought monitor across the state. And this is from last week, but if nothing much has changed in the sense of what we're looking at, you can see most of the state is in abnormally dry or worse conditions. Now, eastern parts of Texas are going to see improvement because we had rain over the weekend. But in terms of western Texas, the Panhandle, there's drought. Now, it could be a lot worse, and it probably will be after this week. But again, things are dry. This drought monitor also shows longer-term drought impacts like water issues and stuff like that. In terms of, abnormally dry to moderate or severe drought, that's really a lot of agricultural and grasses. So the grass is dry, the fuels are dry, and of course we already had a bunch of freezes this winter, so all the grass is dormant for sure. In terms of the rain, yeah, so no good news, I'm afraid.
Fr. Peter Defonts basically ask about traveling. Like, is it okay to travel, say, from Tulsa to Lubbock?
Yeah, you'll be fine traveling tomorrow. I mean, look, it's going to be windy. You're going to get blown around all over the place in terms of your car, but as long as you're not like a super high profile vehicle with no weight on you, you should be fine to travel. Now, in terms of blowing dust, the closer you get to Lubbock, the lower the visibility may get, although it'll vary drastically over short distances. And in terms of what we're expecting for fires, again, if there's a fire, be mindful of that. Don't drive into wildfire smoke or anything like that. But, we can't tell you, is there going to be a fire or where is the fire going to be? So,
Yeah. Sarah
in
dropped
terms.
that drivetexas.org is in the comment section there from Sarah.
Yeah.
That's a good place to see where the road might be closed in case you have any doubts.
Yeah, and Jason's right with that, with the drivetexas.org for road conditions. But the good news is right now, we don't have any ongoing fires in the sense of something we need to watch going into tomorrow. We did have a fire northeast of Amarillo earlier today that was held to about 75 to 95 acres northeast side of Amarillo, and that was under containment and under control within about an hour, so that's good. But tomorrow, you could burn 100 acres in about 60 seconds, unfortunately, in some cases. So we're going to have to be very mindful of that and be mindful that, fires are going to move fast tomorrow. I'm trying to get my camera to turn back on here.
Looks like we're all caught up on questions. Thank you, David. Thanks, Sarah, helping out those questions and answers. We appreciate everybody joining us. And David's gone. David, where are you?
I'm here.
He's gone into the background. The
Yeah.
synoptic map of doom.
Synoptic map of doom. Yeah, I'm really trying to get this thing to turn back on. I'm not really sure. Let's press that and see. There we go.
Hey,
Woo!
welcome back. You're here. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're caught up in questions. Thanks everybody for watching, and stay aware.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you to everyone who popped in for our little live discussion this evening. We'll have a full Texas weather roundup briefing tomorrow morning. And again, we'll have chasers out across the Panhandle in West Texas tomorrow afternoon. And we're going to be keeping a very close eye on fire conditions and any sort of incidents that develop, and we'll do our best to spread information from that. But Watch Duty's a good app to have. Your local city and or county emergency management notification system, that's a good app / notification service to have, and those are free. And of course, if you're out in those areas as well, make sure you have the alerts enabled from your local power company so they can give you a heads up if there's any sort of power situation, planned or otherwise. So, on behalf of Jason and myself, thanks for popping in, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Hope you'll pop over to YouTube for the latest Texas weather roundup. And until tomorrow, y'all have an amazing one, and God bless.